and gentlemen, the stage to trap Taliban and puncturing Pakistan's propaganda was set by India and Russia, 24 hours ahead of the BRICS meet. In the first ever extensive review of the Afghanistan situation, both countries identified the common enemy and discussed measures to stop the Taliban from using Afghanistan soil for terror activities. India even went on to name and shame Pakistan, saying it has direct links to the Taliban and other international terror groups. And today, as Prime Minister Modi's message on counter-terrorism set the narrative of the meet, it was Russian President Putin who fired all cylinders to corner not only the Taliban but its masters Pakistan and China. But what made it change its stance after its envoy gave a clean chit to Taliban? It was India's first warning shot to the terror caliphate. This is what Prime Minister Modi said.
हमने ब्रिक्स काउंटर टेररिज्म एक्शन प्लान भी एडॉप्ट किया है। हमारी अंतरिक्ष एजेंसियों के बीच रिमोट सेंसिंग सैटेलाइट कॉन्स्टेलेशन समझौते से सहयोग का एक नया अध्याय शुरू हो रहा है।
This is what the Prime Minister had said on August 17th. Just 2 days after the Taliban entered the gates of Kabul, the Russian envoy to Afghanistan said that Kabul's condition is better under the Taliban. India, on August 31st, for the first time, warned Taliban that Afghan soil shouldn't be used for terror, and today Putin echoed India's words. When Russian envoy claimed Taliban's approach is good and positive, it was India that demanded the safe passage of minorities to India to escape tyranny. And today, Russian president echoed the same sentiment, saying Afghanistan shouldn't become the hub of terror and drug trafficking. The Russian envoy even went on to say that everything has calmed down after the Taliban took control of Kabul, but India told Taliban firmly that the region should not be used for anti-India activities. Putin echoed the world situation is indeed turbulent after the Afghan crisis. India's concern was on the lips of everyone who participated in the BRICS today, and that's why in its declaration they called out Taliban's Islamist terror, which has Pakistan's stamp all over it. The leaders in one voice condemned terrorism, financing networks and safe havens. They called out the Taliban and appealed to it to refrain from violence. That the onus lies with the Taliban not to allow the territory to be used as terror sanctuaries. And last but not the least, uphold rights, including those of women, children and minorities. Listen in to what the MEA official said today.
Obviously, this was an issue that was touched upon. So the first thing that came out of the meeting on Afghanistan was that there is a very strong sense of consensus which is supportive of our perspective on the developments in Afghanistan and in the region. There was a very strong condemnation of terrorism, and that terrorism, Afghan territory should not be used either for terrorism or for drug trafficking, and that it should not cause or become a reason for problems in the neighborhood.
So the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight: has Modi's BRICS message set the tone for Taliban and the world's worry with Taliban? That's the question and the debate. Modi BRICS message. That's the hashtag. The debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining me tonight, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, National Spokesperson of the BJP and Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha. Also joining me tonight, Tehseen Poonawala, Political Analyst, Ghanshyam Tiwari, Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, Ashutosh, Political Analyst, Saeed Masoodul Hassan, former Vice President of the AMU Students' Union. And my first question goes to my friend and author, Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I want to ask you this. the clear message, and look at why we have deliberately in the introduction emphasized on the change in Russia's stand from 17th of August to now, is because in the middle there was the intervention of India, the Prime Minister specially sending the National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval to Russia with a message. And we've seen what Putin said today. Will those who have been virtually mocking the Prime Minister, ab kya karenge, what will they do, they've been talking, good Taliban, don't they get the message that the Prime Minister means business and he's making first step, making the BRICS realize the same concerns that this region has?
No, good evening, Navika. No, you're absolutely spot on. I think the hectic diplomatic activities, especially with Mr. Doval over the past week, have borne results. And I welcome PM Modi's statement, especially on economic cooperation amongst the BRICS nations. And by the way, here I speak as a layman because there are many more eminent experts on the panel I see. But I must say that I am also confounded to a large degree by him agreeing with the president of Russia, President Putin, saying that, quote, Afghanistan should not become a threat to its neighboring countries, a source of terrorism and drug trafficking, unquote. I mean, the Taliban must be hearing this and saying, so hum kya kare? Job chhod de? I mean, I ask you, what else is Afghanistan going to do under the Taliban if not become a source of terrorism and drug trafficking? Navika, it's like asking, let's hope Pakistan does not sponsor terrorism. I mean, what else are they going to do? What else have they been doing? Navika, there is no doubt that Afghanistan is going to be the biggest security threat in the coming years, especially for India. There is already talk of Pakistan coercing and cajoling its Afghan terror contingent to seep through our borders and create mayhem in Kashmir. This happened 3 days ago. We all know that Afghanistan was under Taliban 1, a perfect hub of terror and terror training. We suffered enormously because of it, Kandahar being the shining example there. There is no indication whatsoever that Taliban 2.0 is going to be any different. In fact, Navika, worryingly, it's going to be a lot worse, given that they now control a military with the most modern American equipment and armament. The second point, very briefly, Navika, that many may have missed since the evening, but one must say this, again I emphasize as a layman, is the profound irony of waxing eloquent on the BRICS platform of economic, health, and security cooperation, when the C in BRICS has single-handedly sabotaged the world economy, the world health, and world security. Furthermore, the C is going out of its way in laying out the red carpet for the Taliban. They have just provided them with a large aid. They are massively fructifying their strategic interests in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, with the helping hand being provided by their friend, the terror state that is Pakistan. China, Navika, is the big winner to come out of the Afghanistan situation. If you think
that's true, Dr. Anand Ranganathan. That's true. I mean, are you saying that the Taliban is not a source of worry, that the Taliban is not a terror organization? Of course it is, but it is there right now. The fact is that we will have to build up a consensus amongst nations across the world in terms of recognition of Taliban and keeping the pressure on Taliban on how to behave and how to deal with India, and that's a starting point. I mean, that's the point that I was making. Of course they will do drug trafficking, but how will it pan out from here if there are sanctions on them, if there is world pressure on them? The point that I was trying to make in the introduction was very clear, that of course, it's bad news that Taliban, Pakistan are coming together and then they have their big boss China sitting with them. It's a nightmare that's really playing out in front of us. But India is putting some sure steps forward to get other larger countries around to understand the danger that this region faces. And to that extent, I'm saying that today it has been demonstrated by the Prime Minister that this happened. Russia said something else 3 weeks ago, said something else today. And that's the point, Ghanshyam Tiwari, that I want to come to you with. Nobody stood there and said that, oh, this is a good Taliban, it's going to give us good governance, like some people in India are doing. अच्छी governance देंगे, good Taliban है, freedom struggle hai. That's not the tone and tenor of what happened at the BRICS.
Well, good evening, Navika ji, to you, to your viewers, and my fellow co-panelists. I think that the Prime Minister's presence and leadership at the BRICS summit was impressive. The platform itself was hollow given the context of what we are discussing. The way the platform has emerged in the last few years, in the face of the pandemic, in the face of tensions between India and China, in the face of the global economic order falling into disarray, or in the face of rise of Taliban and complete surrender of America towards Taliban, and the measured silence of India. So in the face of all this, the summit made some impressive vocabulary public, but did not come up with anything concrete that gives anyone confidence that this forum will do anything to rein in Taliban. I don't think there is anything such as a good Taliban. I think that the danger to India is imminent, and Taliban walks hand in glove with Pakistan and China.
आप समाजवादी पार्टी में है ना? बदल तो नहीं ली पार्टी?
आप टाइम्स नाउ में हैं कि आप बदलने वाली हैं?
नहीं, मैं तो हूँ। मैं अब टाइम्स नाउ में भी हूँ, टाइम्स नाउ नव भारत में भी हूँ, क्योंकि बर्क साहब आपकी पार्टी से तो कुछ और ही कहते हैं, आप कुछ और कह रहे हैं, तो मैं इसीलिए थोड़ा कंफ्यूज हो गई।
आप लोग आजकल अफगानिस्तान में वीडियो गेम दिखा रहे हैं, मैंने सुना है, आपकी तारीफ हो रही है दुनिया भर में, तो कंफ्यूज हर कोई हो रहा है। हम मुद्दे पे रहते हैं, ब्रिक्स समिट मुद्दा है, वीडियो गेम और बर्क साहब मुद्दा नहीं है।
बिल्कुल।
जहां तक तालिबान की बात है, आई थिंक एवरी वन ऑफ अस, वेदर वी आर इन ऑपोजिशन और दोज हु आर इन गवर्नमेंट, वी एक्सपेक्ट इंडिया टू बी फुली प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर facing the worst of Taliban at a time when they feel globally empowered, and at a time when the global voices that stood for certain ideologies and principles of democracy, freedom to women, freedom to press, and a certain point of view of 21st century world, all those voices appear diminished, hollow, and hypocritical. So at this moment, I think that what Government of India does is a measured approach, and we are waiting to see how that unfolds.
Well, घनश्याम तिवारी जी, आपने वीडियो गेम का you made a reference to it, and I have no problems in apologizing for that video. Unverified video came through some handles in Afghanistan, and as you know, we don't have our journalists there. Yes, mistake made on the social media desk, mistake made on the channel. I have no problems in accepting this. I wish politicians and political parties would also accept and apologize for faults. अगर आप बर्क साहब से इत्तेफाक नहीं रखते तो कह दीजिए, ये उनका पर्सनल व्यू है, मेरा वो व्यू नहीं है।
Let us hope their wishes come true, but at this point we are discussing Taliban, and I'll stick to that matter.
यही प्रॉब्लम है। सुधांशु त्रिवेदी जी गलती का इजहार नहीं करेंगे, हमारी गलती दुनिया को बताएंगे, अपनी गलती एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे। चलिए खैर, लेकिन आई वांट टू आस्क यू सुधांशु त्रिवेदी जी, all of these people in this country who have always raised questions about the Prime Minister's leadership at the global forum. I'm not saying that we've sort of achieved something which we set out to, but we've made a beginning, and I think the message has gone across. And then they will say BRICS is not the forum. हमने UNSC में भी कहा है, हमने आज BRICS में कहा है, और रशिया ने अपनी पोजीशन चेंज की है। Do you think the message is clear to the opposition, which has pointed fingers at the Prime Minister?
Navika ji, I will respond to your question, but first I would like to say one sentence about my friend Ghanshyam Tiwari, whom you asked about the good Taliban, bad Taliban, and Shafiqur Rahman, Burke, others. Actually, there is also two faces of Samajwadi Party. One is Ghanshyam Tiwari, who represent the Harvard-educated. Ghanshyam Tiwari represent the Harvard-type Samajwadi Party, and Burke Saab represent the Madrasa-type Samajwadi Party. But like the good and bad Taliban, the so-called champions of good have to defend all the bad things of Taliban in the same manner. The Harvard type of Samajwadi Party spokesperson should have to defend the Madrasa type of Samajwadi Party leaders. This is the irony of the situation. Now coming to the BRICS, I would like to say today's meeting was very important because of two reasons. Number one, this includes the two countries which are the member of the permanent member of Security Council. This includes the two members, Russia and China, whom there is presumably an understanding with the Taliban government in Afghanistan. And third thing, it was happening under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. I would like to remind that it was under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi in 2016 in BRICS when the first time the issue of terrorism was taken and the counter-terrorism action has been started, and then the NSA's meeting took place in 2007. Satellites, digital and misuse of internet on terrorism, in every aspect we are marching ahead. And even in the issue of use of internet against the terrorism, there are 2 workshops has been undertaken by India during our chairship time in the last 1 year. So we are firmly putting up our view, and we are hopeful that our view will prevail on the international scenario. But one thing I would like to say in context with Afghanistan. देखिए अफगानिस्तान का जो मिजाज जो है जरा समझना होगा जितना चाइना और रशिया समझ रहे हैं. एक सेंटेंस पूरा कर दो साहब. ऐसा है कि अफगानिस्तान में जब भी कोई चेंज होता है तो जो भी कंट्री इंटर करता है ये सोच के कि साहब हम तो यहां चेंज के साथ हैं, और कुछ ही समय में that hero converts into villain. Like in 1980 when Russians entered, they said that they are there to save the conscience of Afghanistan against the Americans, and within a period of few years they became the villains. We remember in our childhood the movie of Sylvester Stallone's movie First Blood, in which the Hollywood were making movies that they were fighting for Mujahideens and Mujahideens are like the heroes. And when America entered in 2001, they said that they are there to save the consciousness of Afghanistan, and within few years they become villain. तो मेरा मानना यह भी है कि चाइना को भी ये गलतफहमी नहीं पालनी चाहिए, क्योंकि इनका इतिहास गवाह है कि जो जो वहां पे हीरो बन के आया चंद सालों में विलेन बन गया. तो हमारे लिए जो सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न है उस पर तो हम पूरी तरीके से स्ट्रेटेजिकली और डिप्लोमेटिकली अलर्ट है. मगर जो लोग वहां जाकर हॉबनॉबिंग करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं उन्हें भी रशिया और अमेरिका के एक्सपीरियंस से समझना होगा. एंड आई डू नॉट थिंक दैट फॉरगेट अबाउट द पाकिस्तान, इवन चाइना इज इन दैट पोजीशन एज पावरफुल एज वाज यूएसएसआर इन 1980 और एज पावरफुल एज यूएसए वाज इन 2000.
Dr. Anand Ranganathan, you wanted to come in for 10 seconds before I go to the other experts that you referred to, Ashutosh ji and of course Tehseen Poonawala.
Yes, no, very briefly, I must say that I compliment Ghanshyam for his views and appreciating what the Prime Minister said. And I have to say this, Navika, that Ghanshyam, whatever may be the views of his party members, Ghanshyam belongs to a military family. So his first and foremost, he will always stand with India, and I'm absolutely certain of that. I'm glad he's done. सुधांशु जी से मैं एक ही बात पूछना चाहूंगा. सुधांशु ने बहुत अच्छी बात कही कि ब्रिक्स जो है एक प्लेटफॉर्म है जहां पे हम पानी कंजर्वेशन की बात कर रहे हैं, एनवायरमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं. सुधांशु जी, ब्रिक्स में एक डिक्टेटरशिप चाइना भी है. चाइना ने कहर ढा दिया है पिछले 2 साल से. क्या हमने ये ब्रिक्स प्लेटफॉर्म को लेके चाइना को लताड़ा है कि उन्होंने ये कोविड लीक कैसे किया लैब से? क्या हमने कहा है कि वो हमारे 20 सोल्जर्स कैसे मारे गए हैं? क्या हमने कहा है कि वो अभी टेररिज्म को कैसे सपोर्ट कर रही है हमारे दोनों बॉर्डर्स? तो ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म का यूज क्या है? मैं आपसे फिलोसॉफिकली पूछ रहा हूं. ऐसे प्लेटफॉर्म का यूज क्या है कि अगर हम सिर्फ एक मेंबर है वो सिर्फ गलतियां कर रहा है, उसको हम पॉइंट भी ना करें क्या गलतियां कर.
सुधांशु जी.
हाँ, आनंद रंगानाथन जी, शायद आपने मेरा स्टेटमेंट स्किप कर दिया होगा. Prior to 2016, there was no issue of terrorism ever discussed on the platform of BRICS. It was under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Modi when we insisted, and the issue of terrorism was included. Then our instance in 2017, the counter-terrorism network was established. Then in subsequence of that, the meeting of NSAs of the BRICS has taken place. So, हमारे ही प्रभाव की वजह से वहां पर टेररिज्म का इशू आया है, जो कि उस समय चाइना नहीं चाहता था कि इस ढंग के कोई इशू आए. और जो मैंने अभी बाद में बोला कि मिसयूज ऑफ इंटरनेट फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ टेररिज्म, यह भी हमारा इस बार का इनिशिएटिव है. और इसमें 2 वर्कशॉप हुई और दोनों इंडिया के इनिशिएटिव पे हुई, मोदी जी के चेयरमैनशिप में हुई. तो इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे हम जितना उस दिशा में आगे बढ़ सकते थे, जो आपने कहा, योर कंसर्न इज very appropriate and it has to be concern of every Indian, and Modi ji is working in the same direction as far as BRICS is concerned.
Let me get in Tehseen Poonawala. Tehseen Poonawala, you've been tweeting incessantly.
Yes.
You think, as always, India hasn't been able to impress its own point of view?
Ma'am, I'm just going to make 2 very short points. The first point is, I'll take Anand's point forward. The Honorable Prime Minister, and I quote him from Times of India, thanked all the members for cooperating with India when we know, and as Anand said, in 2020, China martyred 20 of our brave hearts for no reason except aggression, something it's been doing all over. The Prime Minister hasn't raised the China issue at BRICS. Second, he in his speech did not use two words, Afghanistan and Taliban. If this talks, and it was being held in the background of terror and Afghanistan and Taliban, the least we would expect our Prime Minister to do while chairing the BRICS summit is to talk about Afghanistan and Taliban, name them. But just like he failed to name China on one single occasion, he failed to name even Afghanistan and Taliban. And therefore I go to the question that Ghanshyam very rightly raised. What is the end objective of the Prime Minister? On the last time I was with you, I asked a question of the BJP spokesperson and repeat. Do you even today have a list of Indians working in Afghanistan for other countries and other corporates and other multinationals that are there? Even as of now, half an hour ago, you don't have that complete list of Indians out there. This is the failure of Prime Minister Modi, and you need to accept it and work together to solve it.
Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, respond.
Tehseen ji, as far as the Indian citizens which are strangled there and the Hindu and Sikh Afghani citizens which are there, it's around, the figure is around 200, for which we are trying our best to get them out, because Taliban is not allowing anybody, particularly those who are the Afghani citizens, to go out of Afghanistan. So that's why we are trying at our level. But one thing you are asking about, that we have not raised the issue, you know that India has taken such a firm stand on the issue of China when India and China was at conflict. Which countries were taking the favor of China? Only two, North Korea and Pakistan. Or you can suggest a third name, which was there. And as far as policy is concerned, do you remember the most dreaded attack in Kabul on the Indian embassy took place in which year? 2008, in which the government accepted 58 people died. And what was the policy of then government? That in 2009, there was a Sharm el-Sheikh declaration and saying that our peace talks will be unaffected by the terrorist attack, despite the fact in 2008, 26/11 has also taken place. And not only this, the Baluchistan became the part of the joint statement. Means in a way we were accepting that we are involved in Baluchistan. This was the stated policy, and not only this, your policy was, as Barack Obama in his book, The Promised Land, has said, that after 26/11, the UPA government decided not to take a firm and strong action against Pakistan because they thought that it may help politically BJP. And if you are having any problem, मुकदमा करिए जाके Barack Obama के ऊपर. So your policy was this, and our policy categorically clear: terror and talks can't go together. So up till now, we have not engaged in any official bilateral dialogue with Pakistan.
Well, Tehseen Poonawalla, a party that goes around signing MOUs with China certainly doesn't deserve to preach anything. A party that goes and meets with the Chinese ambassador when Doklam was happening doesn't need to preach anything. And secondly, I just want to tell you, Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla, obviously, India did not wait for BRICS to happen today to pick up China's issue, which happened in, several months ago. Those issues have been raised, and those issues have been raised at several fora.
Please be allowed to respond to 2 points.
No.
Let me respond to your point. Please allow me to respond. There are 2 very important points. Mr. Trivedi is absolutely wrong on the fact that India does not talk to terrorists. India is in Qatar talking to terrorists. It's spoken twice in Doha. It also spoke in London. It spoke behind our back until Qatar leaked it out to our brave journalists, print journalists. So please do not say that India did not speak. India didn't.
Tehseen Poonawalla, you try to show that all Indians and all Hindus and Sikhs in Afghanistan should be, rescued from there, and there should not be any conversation back channel also to bring those people back. Come on.
Okay.
I think you need a reality check. You need a reality check. You're living in some cuckoo land where you don't know how things work. But let me get in Ashutosh ji. I want to ask. We are in a tough position. There's no two ways about it. Taliban, Pakistan, China is a reality in our backyard. We are in a very, very difficult situation. Nobody can deny that. But do you think this is the time for various political parties and for various groups to suddenly begin to mock the policy of India, to begin to say, अरे आप स्टैंड लीजिए ना, आपका क्या स्टैंड है, हमारे गुड तालिबान पे आपको इतनी दिक्कत है, आप अपना स्टैंड बताइए ना, आप तो टेरर से बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हमारे लोग क्यों नहीं बच रहे, वापस क्यों नहीं आए? You know, this kind of conversation, do you think it makes any sense in the real world?
The two quick points. First of all, why we are in such a mess, why we are isolated in South Asia and in the neighborhood. Government has to explain that. What happened to our foreign policy? What happened to our diplomacy? I think this is a colossal failure of not only diplomacy but also foreign policy. First of all, we have no courage to call Taliban a terrorist organization. We have never said it. We are talking about it. We have never said it. It is the Chinese and the Russians who in the Security Council abstained from the resolution. It is the government of India led by Mr. Modi, chaired by India, agreed de facto recognition of the Chinese, recognition of the Taliban as a very recognized state. And it is our foreign minister who rushed to Doha to be.
I'm sorry, we have a problem with your network, Ashutosh ji. I'll have to ask the same question to Saeed Masood Hassan. Masood Hassan ji, तालिबान गुड तालिबान हो सकती है, अच्छी गवर्नेंस दे सकती है, मोदी जी की भी तारीफ कर दीजिए कि रशिया का उन्होंने स्टैंड पलट दिया.
देखिए नविका जी, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल विल हैव टू सी दैट व्हाट इज द पॉलिसी, what is the clear policy of our government towards Taliban and Afghanistan. You were talking about that in Doha, you are allegation, you are making an allegation on Tehseen Pulawala that you want the government that they should not have any kind of talk with Taliban in Doha for having the safe passage to
the Hindus and the Sikh citizen of that country. So I want to ask one thing. In the first war of Iraq, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, did the Indian Air Force did not airlifted its citizens from there? Can't it be happen again in case of Afghanistan? And you have a very strong military. We have a very strong security forces. Why don't you go and invade Afghanistan? What is your policy? All of the countrymen, all of the citizens, everybody in the world is in chaos. That what kind of policy is followed by Indian government against Taliban? आप दोस्त भी नहीं हैं और दुश्मन भी नहीं कह रहे. ये क्या बात है? कोई एक साइड पर रहेंगे ना.
नहीं, दोस्त भी नहीं है, दुश्मन भी नहीं है, इनको सब कुछ इंस्टेंट कॉफी के साथ की तरह चाहिए. डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन.
नहीं नाविका, वेरी ब्रीफली 2 points. नंबर 1, आज वही लोग कह रहे हैं एस्टोनिशिंगली कि इंडिया, व्हाई डजंट इंडिया अटैक एंड इन्वेड अफगानिस्तान. 2 साल पहले वही लोग हैं जो जब हमने पाकिस्तान पे अटैक किया था उनके टेररिस्ट कैंप पे, तो प्रूफ मांग रहे थे. वाह, 2 साल में क्या बदल गया. और दूसरी बात मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा, तालिबान और पाकिस्तान दोनों अफगानिस्तान
सीआरपीएफ के जो जवान मरे उसका भी प्रूफ नहीं दे पाए.
प्लीज डोंट.
आप तो वो प्रूफ भी नहीं दे पाए. सीआरपीएफ के जवानों को उड़ाने के लिए 300 किलो आरडीएक्स किस तरह से कश्मीर में आ गया, आप आज तक जवाब दे पाए? आपके मोदी जी ने जवाब दिया, बीजेपी ने जवाब दिया, कोई जवाब नहीं दिया.
मोदी जी नहीं, आपने कहा आपके मोदी जी हमारे प्रधानमंत्री हैं. हसन साहब, आपके प्रधानमंत्री कौन है? हसन साहब, आपके प्रधानमंत्री कौन है? मोदी जी तो हमारे हैं, हमने मान लिया. आपके प्रधानमंत्री कौन है हसन साहब? इमरान खान.
इनके इमरान खान हो.
नहीं, आप बार बार कह रहे हैं आपके मोदी जी, आपके मोदी जी. आपके प्रधानमंत्री नहीं है क्या?
मोदी जी मेरे नहीं हो सकते.
अच्छा, मोदी जी आपके नहीं हो सकते, तो आपके इमरान खान ही होंगे. बहरहाल आनंद रंगनाथन जी इस आनंद रंगनाथन जी wants to make a point. आपने अपना पॉइंट कह दिया, अब जवाब सुन लीजिए आनंद.
Can I also make a point?
नाविका कमाल की बात है कि देखिए आपने क्या निकाला है, क्या निकल के आया है कि कह रहे हैं कि मेरे प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी जी नहीं है, तो वही कौन है आपके प्राइम मिनिस्टर? इमरान खान या अभी जो नए बने मुल्ला बरादर और समवन लाइक दैट. नंबर 2, नाविका, दिस पॉइंट हैज नॉट बीन मेड.
तो वकील बने रहे.
नाविका, आई कैन नॉट कंटिन्यू इफ आई एम
वो वकील नहीं है, साइंटिस्ट है, ऑथर है, प्रोफेसर है, पढ़े लिखे हैं. आप तो स्टूडेंट्स यूनियन में रहे हैं, आप. वो जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी से हैं. सुन लीजिए, प्रोफेसर साहब है यूनिवर्सिटी के. काम डाउन. आई एम लोअरिंग योर फेडर बिकॉज नेटवर्क ठीक नहीं है उनका. आप उनको बोलने की इजाजत दें, आपको काउंटर करने का मैं टाइम दूंगी. रंगनाथन जी.
हाँ, मैं यही कहना चाह रहा था नाविका, इट इज वेरी स्टार्टलिंग दैट बोथ अफगानिस्तान राइट नाउ अंडर तालिबान एंड पाकिस्तान रिफ्यूज टू कंडेम चाइना for interning 1.5 million Uyghur Muslims camps, feeding them pork and mass sterilizing them. This is the power that China wields. And this is what I want to say, that in BRICS we must be very wary that we have a confederacy of sheep discussing about economy, about health, when the wolf is right sitting in the middle of them, the wolf being China. What do we do about it? Sudhanshu ji has to explain that. I'm sorry.
Sudhanshu ji has to explain that, and I'll get Sudhanshu ji in, but everybody knows that China is there, and China today was virtually cornered. And you have to begin, nobody can go with their Sten guns, nobody can go with their missiles into, global fora. There has to be a point that has to be made, and that point was made, Dr. Anand Ranganathan. But Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, the concern still remains that the BRICS forum is actually a forum where China sits, and which side China is on, we all know. It is with Taliban, it is with Pakistan, along with having problems with us on our borders. What are we going to do about China?
As far as what the status of China is, I would like to just remind on the issue of Article 370, despite all its efforts, China was unable to bring even a single line of condemnation anywhere, neither in United States General Assembly nor in United States Security Council. This is one thing. And second thing, I would like to remind with my personal experience, around 10 years back, in an international delegation, the people from Afghanistan has told me that the Badakhshan province of Afghanistan, which is adjoining the Xinjiang province of China, वहाँ से लोगों ने बताया कि गांवों में आकर कैसे खड़ा करके चाइना में गोली मारी जाती थी, और जो लोग जान बचा के सीचांग से भागकर बदख्शां में आए, उन्होंने अफगानियों को उस कहर के बारे में बताया. इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूं कि जो चाइना सोच रहा है ना, इतना आसान नहीं है वहां रह के. व्हेन यू फ्यूल द फंडामेंटलिज्म, तो सिचुएशन बहुत डिफरेंट होती है. और मैं ये भी कहना चाहूंगा कि हमारे जितने भी प्रतिपक्षी सम्मानित लोग बैठे हुए हैं, आशुतोष जी हों, तहसीन जी हों या मौलाना साहब हों, भाई ये बताइए, आप वहां तो मौलाना साहब कह रहे हैं तालिबान पर अटैक कर देना चाहिए, और यहां तालिबान के हिंदुस्तान में जितने तलबगार बैठे हैं, जितने खिदमतगार बैठे हैं, जितने हिकमत यार बैठे हैं, चाहे वो सज्जाद नोमानी हो, शफीकुर रहमान बर्क हो, असदुद्दीन ओवैसी हो, जमाते इस्लामी वाले हो, मुस्लिम लीग वाले हो, अरे भैया उन पे अटैक करना तो छोड़ो, एक बयान भी दे दो ना हल्का सा. उनके लिए तो मुंह में दही जम जाता है, और कह रहे हैं आप तालिबान पर अटैक कर देना चाहिए. गजब का आप लोगों का जस्टिफिकेशन है भाई. पहले तालिबान के तलबगारों की जरा खिदमत यहां तो कर दीजिए.
हसन साहब जवाब दीजिए.
जी,
I am a postgraduate in mass communication from Aligarh Muslim University, and I was the vice president of Aligarh Muslim University Students
Union.
मैंने यही पढ़ा, आपकी शान में यही पढ़ा था मैंने.
नहीं, सुधांशु जी हर अलीगढ़ वाले को मौलाना समझते हैं असल में, और अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी को शायद मदरसा समझते हैं आज भी. तो सुधांशु जी ये बात आप क्लियर कर लीजिएगा. मैंने इसलिए कहा कि जब फर्स्ट वॉर ऑफ इराक हुई थी, उस टाइम के ऊपर आपने हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने, इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने एयरलिफ्ट करा था, एयरफोर्स ने एयरलिफ्ट किया था, तो क्या अब वो एयरलिफ्ट नहीं हो सकता? आपने लगता है मेरी बात ठीक से नहीं सुनी। क्या अब वो एयरलिफ्ट नहीं हो सकता? अब जो आपके एनवॉय जाकर के दोहा में बात कर रहे हैं अफगानिस्तान से, नविका जी ने ये कहा कि आप ये चाहते हैं कि साहब वो बात भी ना हो और वहां से लोगों को निकाला भी नहीं जाए, तो ऐसा कोई नहीं चाहता। हिंदुस्तान में कोई भी सिटीजन ऐसा नहीं
पर
है
आप
जो अपने फेलो सिटीजन के लिए ये चीज चाहता हो।
दूसरी बात जो सुधांशु त्रिवेदी जी ने पूछी थी उसको क्यों भूल रहे हैं? आपने कहा था अफगानिस्तान पर हमला कर देना चाहिए हमें। अरे भैया पहले उनकी शान के खिलाफ कुछ कह तो दीजिए।
किनकी शान के खिलाफ कह दूं कुछ?
तालिबानियों की।
भाई एक बात बताइए प्लीज नविका जी, आई वांट टू आस्क मिस्टर सुधांशु त्रिवेदी दैट प्लीज टेल मी that the 3 lakh crores of Indian economy was invested.
Why are you diverting the issue, Hassan Sahab? Why can't you say that Taliban is a terror cabinet, a terror government there? Why can't you say that their atrocities on journalists, on women, on children is unacceptable? आपने तस्वीरें नहीं देखी जर्नलिस्ट के साथ उन्होंने क्या क्या किया है? आपने तस्वीरें नहीं देखी औरतों के साथ वहां क्या जुल्म हो रहे हैं वो नहीं देखी? उनके बारे में आपके मुंह से कुछ निकलता नहीं है हसन साहब।
मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रहा हूं 3 लाख करोड़ रुपए जनता के जो वहां इन्वेस्ट कर रखे हैं,
जनता के पैसे की ज्यादा आपको फिक्र है या जनता की फिक्र है? इंसान की जान की फिक्र है? तो जिनकी जानें वहां खतरे में हैं उनके बारे में कुछ कहेंगे? वहां मजलूम औरतें और बच्चे जो मर रहे हैं रोज उनके बारे में कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? ये देखिए किस तरह वहां जर्नलिस्ट को मारा पीटा जा रहा है, तो आप क्या कहेंगे? आज हसन साहब एक बात कह दीजिए कि अफगानिस्तान में जो तालिबान की सरकार है वो टेरर की सरकार है, बोल दीजिए।
ये बात अगर मेरी गवर्नमेंट कह देगी, अगर हिंदुस्तान की गवर्नमेंट ये बात कह देगी तो हम भी कह देंगे।
अच्छा तो इजराइल, आप गवर्नमेंट को बड़ा मानते हैं, आप गवर्नमेंट को बड़ा मानते हैं। डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन, ये तो वही हो गया, लॉटरी लग गई आपकी। गवर्नमेंट को आप इतना मानते हैं तो आप, गवर्नमेंट इजराइल के साथ बहुत अच्छे संबंध रखती है, चलिए आप इजराइल को सपोर्ट करेंगे, सरकार सपोर्ट करती है इजराइल को।
अरे नहीं नाविका, ये तो अभी ये तो मानने को तैयार नहीं थे।
Let me speak one thing.
इनके प्राइम मिनिस्टर
That the BJP
will you support Israel? Will you support Israel?
Not at all.
Then आप गवर्नमेंट के इतने ओबीडियंट से फॉलोअर कैसे हो गए? आपने कहा गवर्नमेंट उनको टेरर तालिबान कहेगी तो मैं भी कहूंगा। गवर्नमेंट इजराइल को मानती है, आप भी मान लीजिए। डर गए हैं। टेरर को टेरर कहने में आपको डर लगता है, क्यों डर लगता है? मजलूम औरतों के साथ कुछ हो रहा है, आपको इतना डर लगता है, एंड दैट इज माय प्रॉब्लम। एंड आशुतोष जी, आई वांट टू कम बैक टू यू। आशुतोष जी, I have just exposed this mindset on the Newshour once again tonight. I exposed it last week, I've exposed it again. They will not condemn terror Taliban. They will say we will do that after the government does it. But the other side, flip the coin, इजराइल को सपोर्ट नहीं करेंगे, तब ये इंडिपेंडेंट ख्यालात वाले हो जाते हैं, गवर्नमेंट के ख्यालात इनसे मिलते नहीं हैं। आशुतोष जी, my problem is with that. Of course, we have a problem in our neighborhood. India has taken a position today, taken a step forward. Why can't we recognize it as that? And at least say this, acknowledge it.
मेरा जो सवाल था पुराना सवाल, इसका जवाब तो दिया नहीं सुधांशु जी ने। मैं फिर सवाल, क्योंकि आपने कहा है कि जो तालिबान की सरकार है टेरर कैबिनेट है, सबसे पहले भारत सरकार को कहना चाहिए टेरर कैबिनेट अगर वो है तो भारत सरकार उनसे बातचीत क्यों कर रही है? आप पूछेंगे कि बातचीत करना जरूरी है, तो 1996 to 2001, 5 years, Taliban was the government over there, more brutal, more ruthless, more barbaric than any government ever in the history of world civilization. And only 3 governments recognized: UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. India did not. India was, at that point of time, was evacuation of Indians not an issue? It was an issue, but India took a firm stand. Today, India doesn't even know what it is doing. Whether it has to recognize Taliban,
whether it has to call Taliban a terrorist organization. Government till talking today has not even called Taliban a terrorist organization. Sudhanshu ji is here. His party is going to the entire country blaming Taliban, but his own government is involved at all. What a shame it can be.
Question. Your network is bad. Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, respond to Mr. Ashutosh.
Let me complete. In Security Council, it is the Russian and the Chinese who abstain. Government of India.
मैं नहीं रोक रही आपको आशुतोष भाई, आपका नेटवर्क रोक रहा है आपको। आपका नेटवर्क आपकी आवाज नहीं ला रहा। आपका क्वेश्चन समझ में आ गया है, सुधांशु जी जवाब दे रहे हैं।
सुधांशु जी ज्ञान मत दीजिए, ये बताइए कि तालिबान टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है या
अच्छा चलिए, आशुतोष जी ने जो बोला
जवाब दीजिए बस।
अरे भैया बता रहा हूं, अरे जो सामने दिख रहा उसमें भी आपको इफ एंड बट चाहिए। मैं तो कह रहा हूं कि वो तालिबान बिल्कुल टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, परंतु आप क्यों नहीं बोल रहे हैं कि नोमानी ने जो बोला कि तालिबान आजादी की लड़ाई लड़ रहा था, बोलिए ना उसके खिलाफ। शफीकुर रहमान बर्क ने बोला, बोलिए ना उसके खिलाफ। असदुद्दीन ओवैसी ने बोला, बोलिए ना उसके खिलाफ। और अभी सुनिए, राहुल गांधी के सहयोगी मुस्लिम लीग ने बोला, बोलिए ना उसके खिलाफ। काहे नहीं बोल रहे हैं भाई? हम तो खुलेआम बोल रहे हैं। और मैं आपको बधाई देना चाहता हूं। अरे आशुतोष जी, आप बोल रहे थे तब मैं नहीं बोल रहा था ना। आपने अपने टर्न पे बोली। आप तो भले आदमी है भाई, आप कहां एकदम बीच में तू मैं वाली बहस में आ गए। अब आपने बोला, मैंने सुना, अब अपने टर्न का इंतजार कर लीजिए। मैं आपको एक बात के लिए साधुवाद देना चाहता हूं कि इन्होंने कहा कि 96 से 2001 में एटलीस्ट इन्होंने तारीफ की, इस बात की कि हम लोगों ने अच्छे ढंग से डील किया था। तो मैं याद दिलाना चाहता हूं कि 96 से 2001 में 4 साल, 98, 99, 2000, 2001 बीजेपी की सरकार थी। चलिए, आपको मैं इस बात के लिए धन्यवाद देता हूं कि आपने ये एक्सेप्ट किया कि हम लोगों ने अच्छे ढंग से डील किया था। और आश्वस्त रहिए कि मोदी जी की सरकार, वाजपेयी जी की सरकार से भी और ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से और कड़ाई के तरीके से तालिबान को डील करेगी। इसमें कोई इफ एंड बट आपके मन में नहीं रहना चाहिए। जहां तक बातचीत की बात है, हाँ बातचीत की बात बता रहा हूं मैं, बातचीत की बात पे भी आ रहा हूं।
जवाब दे दीजिए, आपकी
सरकार। हाँ, दोहा में बिल्कुल। अरे भाई आप बात सुनिए ना। अरे ये बताइए, जब भारत सरकार की लिस्ट में आयरिश रिपब्लिकन आर्मी का नाम है टेररिस्ट संगठन, जो भारत की धरती पर टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटीज होती हैं, तो उनके नाम हमारे टेररिस्ट लिस्ट में होते हैं। अन्यथा कोई ग्वाटेमाला में कर रहा है तो हमारे यहां नहीं होता उसका नाम। हमारे यहां एक्टिविटी होती है, बिल्कुल होता है। और जिस दिन हमारे यहां जरा सी भी स्थिति होगी, बिल्कुल कड़ाई के साथ होंगे। अरे आपकी तो वो चीयर लिस्ट में रहते हैं भाई। मैंने तो आपसे बोला, जिन्होंने तालिबान की तारीफ की उनके लिए तो बोल दीजिए, कह दीजिए आगे से बात नहीं करूंगा उनके साथ, उनकी तरफदारी नहीं करूंगा। बोलिए भाई। और हमारे एमयू के फ्रेंड बोल रहे थे,
आप वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए आपने ये बात मान ली कि आप वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए तालिबान के नाम का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं और कुछ नहीं।
आप बताइए ना,
पॉलिटिक्स। घनश्याम तिवारी जी, जो गुड तालिबान कहते हैं, वो वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स नहीं कर रहे, लेकिन सरकार वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए तालिबान इस्तेमाल कर रही है। व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एन आर्गुमेंट इज दिस मेड बाय मिस्टर हसन हियर? डू यू एग्री विद दैट, घनश्याम तिवारी जी?
I will say two things. One, I will thank my panelists for the kind words they used for me. I think Samajwadi Party is only one and led by Akhilesh Yadav ji on the basis of the work that we've done. As far as good Taliban, bad Taliban, and what weakens the Taliban and what, I take strong objection to the approach of Ashutosh Trivedi ji, which is representative of the approach of Bharatiya Janata Party, that marginalizing an Indian Muslim voice is a way to weaken Taliban. I think this cacophony has developed, especially in the media, that corner the Indian Muslim and show that is how you weaken the Taliban. The only way to weaken Taliban is when government of India plays the right diplomatic...
Did the media make the statement? Did anybody force Mr. Burke to make that statement? Did anybody in the media force Mr. Numani to make that statement? Did anybody force Mr. Farooq Abdullah to make the statement about good governance from Taliban? I want to ask you, it's so convenient. It's so convenient to train your guns on the media every single time, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. But you know, at some point, you have to do some introspection as well.
Navika ji, you would know my response. I have always questioned the role of Indian media in cornering the Indian Muslim by doing Hindu-Muslim debates for past 7 years. I've been very clear on my stance on this. It may be appreciated, it may not be appreciated, but I think doing Hindu-Muslim debates every day in this country has weakened our social fabric.
I want to ask you, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, how many debates have you sat on this channel, on this show, and discussed COVID and the handling of the oxygen situation and the handling of the dead body situation? How many debates have you ended? Were they Hindu-Muslim debates, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari? How many debates have you sat on this channel where we've discussed GDP, where we've discussed unemployment, where we've discussed every single issue of economic policy? How many debates have you sat on, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari? Were they Hindu-Muslim debates?
I think not just me, every one of your viewers appreciates those debates. So I am thankful.
No, so if everybody does not appreciate, that is also the media's fault?
Well, I'm saying everybody appreciates the fact that when the media takes up the issues of common man, but BJP wants everyday discussion on Hindu-Muslim issues, and they believe, allow me to complete, they believe that cornering the Indian Muslim is the way to weaken Taliban. The way to weaken Taliban is pursuing the right.
We are looking for good editors, and Harvard returned editors, very good. Be a consulting editor, come and sit on our desk, decide the news list every day, and I'm happy to have you on board as a consulting editor, but then don't have your political agenda and your political hat on your head. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, बहुत हो गया ये भाषणबाजी. नसीहत सिर्फ हमारे लिए है, नेताओं के लिए कोई नसीहत नहीं है.
Navika, we all know that the Prime Minister's office is a consulting editor for media across the country these days.
नहीं, MY मुस्लिम यादव के फॉर्मूले पे इनकी पार्टी बनी हुई है और हिंदू मुस्लिम हम करते हैं. वाह घनश्याम तिवारी जी, वाह. कम से कम बोलने से पहले थोड़ी रिसर्च कर लीजिए और ऐसी चीज बोलिए जिसमें मैं जवाब ना दे सकूं, तब तो मानूंगी कि अच्छे बॉलर हैं. नहीं तो ऐसी बातें आप बोलते हैं कि छक्का मारने में इतनी आसानी होती है, और धोनी साहब अब मेंटर बन के आ गए हैं ना, अब हेलीकॉप्टर शॉट भी सीखूंगी.
बिल्कुल आप
डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन,
लेकिन बस ये हर रोज हिंदू मुस्लिम डिबेट मत रखिए, यूपी उसे बढ़ाइए.
Now, very quickly, Navika, very quickly, 2 points, if I can make, without people disturbing me. Thank you so much. Navika, I have to say that I do agree. 10 seconds. Won't take more than 10 seconds. That I am so pleased with the point that my good friend Ashutosh has made. In fact, he has a serious good point. He has made a very good point, which is that I still understand कि हसन साहब ये कहने को तैयार नहीं कि तालिबान टेरर स्टेट नहीं है, लेकिन आई एम शॉक्ड एंड स्टन्ड कि डॉक्टर त्रिवेदी भी ये कह रहे हैं और ये कहने पर तैयार नहीं है कि तालिबान टेरर स्टेट है. नंबर 2, तहसीन. अब आप आना तहसीन, आपके लिए मेरे पे एक छोटा सवाल है. You know, in 2009 or 2010 or thereabouts, the Congress party.
अरे भाई आपने सुना नहीं आनंद रंगनाथन? अरे मैंने तो बोला टेररिस्ट है भाई, आप सुन नहीं पाए शायद, बिकॉज ऑफ नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लम.
गवर्नमेंट, बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट ने कहा है कि टेररिस्ट स्टेट है तालिबान. नहीं कहा ना?
नहीं कहा.
एग्जैक्टली.
तालिबान टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है. नहीं कहा आपने.
मुझे कंप्लीट करने दीजिए. मुझे प्लीज कंप्लीट करने दीजिए. तो नाविका, 2009 में कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट और राहुल गांधी ने, कांग्रेस पार्टी ने चाइना के साथ MOU किया. अब हम सब जानते हैं कि कांग्रेस पार्टी, तहसीन also knows, is so kind towards the minority, especially Muslim minority. I want Congress party to abrogate that MOU in light of the fact that China has interned 1.5 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps and mass sterilizing them. Tehseen, would you please take this matter up with Rahul Gandhi and say, I want to abrogate MOU with China that is interning.
Tehseen Poonawalla, 5 seconds, because it's a yes or no answer.
I've repeatedly come on all China MOU debates, and I think China is anti-democratic, and the only person who does not have the guts to take China's name is Sri Narendra Modi ji. Show me one visual of Narendra Modi naming China. One visual on your show.
वो तो आप क्रिटिसाइज कर चुके. आज ये बताइए कि will you Tehseen Poonawalla take up the MOU issue with Rahul Gandhi?
I'm telling you now. Hear me out. Since you're giving me so much importance.
Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no?
I think China and Afghanistan are both terror states. something Narendra Modi
Rahul
does not have the
Gandhi,
guts to say.
will you take it up with
Narendra Modi
Rahul
does not have the
Gandhi?
guts to
Will you take
say,
it up
"As
with
Prime
Rahul
Minister, I will
Gandhi?
stick to
Will you
that
take it
my
up with
Prime
Rahul
Minister cannot
Gandhi?
say."
Will you take it?
When I meet Rahul Gandhi, I will of course take it up.
तो आपको
but my
अपॉइंटमेंट
Prime
नहीं
Minister
मिलती
does not
क्या?
have the guts to take it up.
आपके चैनल
My
पे भी
Prime
नहीं
Minister-
आते, आपके
He's
कॉल
at-
पर भी नहीं
he's in
आते,
backward area. He's
हमारे
in
चैनल
backward
पे तो
area.
नहीं आते, तुम आपके पास भी नहीं आते क्या?
Is that your debate?
Dr.
Is that your
Sudhanshu
debate?
Trivedi ji, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi ji, Anand Ranganathan and others have asked a question. I'll give you the last opportunity to rebut.
I wanted to say something. I wasn't allowed.
No, it's over. जब चांस मिली तो तब तो आपने
अच्छा,
बोला
जहां तक
नहीं.
मैं
Dr.
सुन पाया,
Trivedi.
शायद तहसीन जी ने ये कहा कि चाइना एंड तालिबान आर टेररिस्ट स्टेट. जहां तक मैं सुन पाया, शायद तहसीन ने ये कहा कि चाइना एंड तालिबान आर टेररिस्ट स्टेट. तो चाइना को भी कह दिया आपने, तो बहुत बड़ी बात है अगर आपने ये स्टेटमेंट नहीं दिया है.
हाँ, पर राहुल गांधी को कहने की हिम्मत नहीं है ना.
मोदी जी को हिम्मत है. मोदी जी को हिम्मत है.
नहीं वो, अरे भाई, जब चाइना के साथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है तो हम क्लियर कट स्टैंड लेते होते हैं. दोपहर के समय टेंट में जाकर खाना नहीं खा रहे होते हैं और चुपके से जाकर जो बाद में वहां से फोटो रिलीज होती है उसके बाद आती है. और जहां तक हम एक बात और साफ कह देना चाहते हैं, अरे भाई, अरे सुनिए तो जनाब, बिल्कुल तालिबान को हम टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मानते हैं. जहां तक ऑफिशियल कहने की बात है तो डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन को मैं बहुत समझदार मानता हूं. जनाब, दो तरीके से ऑफिशियली आपको कोर्ट में जब रखना होता है, या तो उसने भारत में टेररिस्ट एक्टिविटी की हो या यूनाइटेड नेशंस के द्वारा एक एस्टैब्लिश टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो. और जब ऐसी स्थिति आएगी तो हम बिल्कुल करेंगे. मगर यहां तो मजेदार बात यह है कि जो लोग उनके खुलेआम समर्थन में खड़े हैं, जो लोग उनके महिलाओं के प्रति इस ढंग के आचरण के समर्थन में खड़े हैं, वो भी कहीं कोई एक सेंटेंस बोलने को तैयार नहीं है. वाह भाई वाह.
Well, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi has made it very clear today that as the BJP, they call Taliban a terror organization, and that is what they stand by. And when the situation comes in the United Nations or any other global fora, India will take a position. But the question today goes out to those who will not condemn Taliban, who will say that they have the right to give good governance or fight their own Azadi ki ladai. Today, they will ask these questions even when the government is categorical on where it stands, and not just the government. The Prime Minister made it clear, and how Russia has changed its position has been demonstrated in the meeting at the BRICS today. Will those who criticize Prime Minister Modi take a deep breath, look at what India has achieved? Rome wasn't built in a day, and so will the Taliban issue be taken up in days to come. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on debate number 1. Taking a short break. On the other side, all top stories of the day. Don't go anywhere just yet.